Only mode.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry about the technical difficulties. We were experiencing a bit of trouble there getting our training started this morning. But at any rate, thank you for joining us today. My name is Frank Savino. I will be your presenter today for today's training, and we'll get started here right away. Thank you for joining. Today's format will include all the attendees will be in listen-only format. All the information that will be shown to you today will be provided to you later this week in the form of a webmail link, from which you'll be able to download the slides you'll be seeing today, as well as the recording that will be taken, and as well as the environment that we'll be creating for you from scratch. So again, all the information that you're going to see today will be available to you later this week. So you will certainly have that to work with and train with as your needs require. Again, all attendees will be in listen-only mode, just to prevent any background noises from occurring, and that'll give everybody a chance to have a good listen to the training material that we'll be showing you today. Anyway, at any rate, let's get started. So let's go to the let's see here. Okay. So we'll start with an agenda. So these are the items that we'll be looking at today. Version tracks, we'll talk about installation of NPrinting, we'll talk about how to create NPrinting reports, and we'll talk about what ClickView entities are as well. We'll talk about filters, both dynamic and static, and we'll show you how to build recipients, individual recipients, and we'll show you how to perform a recipient import list task. We'll talk about reporting tasks, and then we'll get into the other part of the automation piece, which is the delivery of jobs and scheduling of those jobs to specific individuals or groups of individuals. And just one last thing, I do want to do just a quick check here before we continue on. If those of you out there can hear me and see the screen changing, please let me know by putting up your hand. Just want to make sure everybody can hear and see me, see the screen. Wonderful, thank you very much. All right, let's continue. So there are two tracks available in NPrinting. The first track is called the Enterprise track. So the Enterprise track is what we refer to as a time-stable version, meaning all that's delivered is bug fixes and quarterly service releases. In this track, there are no new features. And to receive new features, a new version is released once a year. So, and that would be coming up in the new year here shortly. Now, on the feature track, this track includes all new features, improvements, and bug fixes. Now, new versions are released as new features are developed. So that's the difference. So what is the important difference there? Why Enterprise or feature track? So Enterprise track, if you have a large user acceptance testing organization in the at your office, then the Enterprise track is probably useful for you, simply because in the feature track, new features have to be tested through a number of use case scenarios in larger organizations that have that requirement. So some organizations prefer an Enterprise track which does not require the testing of new features as they're released. So if you don't have that large infrastructure of tests that need to be performed, the feature track is probably suitable for you. Any questions about that? The NPrinting NSQ files developed in the feature release should not be opened in the Enterprise version. This is simply because the NSQs developed in the feature release are simply not compatible with the Enterprise version. The NSQ in the feature release would contain features and capabilities that aren't available in the Enterprise track, and reporting therefore would be not necessarily stable or reliable. So please, if you're in the Enterprise track, stay in the Enterprise track until next year, and if you're in the feature track and you decide to roll back to the Enterprise track, it's actually not possible and not suggested. The NPrinting NSQ, of course, keeps all the report settings, the filters, all the schedules, tasks, reports, all that information developed in NPrinting is stored inside the NSQ file. So what is the NPrinting client? The NPrinting client is the full-featured client application. It's the designer for the developers. It's used to develop and test all NPrinting features. Now, this client is available through two types of licenses, a single user license and a concurrent user license. The most popular license format is the single user license. If you need more information about licensing and pricing, please contact your Vesubi partner or your Vesubi sales rep, and they'll be happy to assist you with that. The NPrinting server, on the other hand, is the management tool. So it is the management tool for automation. The NPrinting server manages report processing as a service, as a background service. So this means you're able to leave the machine and go ahead and set your schedules, and the schedules will be delivered in an automated process in the background. And again, the NPrinting client, on the other hand, is required for developing the projects and which need to be scheduled in the NPrinting server. So installation. Now I'm going to be going through all the slides, and then we're going to come back and go into the application itself, into the NPrinting client today, and we're going to focus on that. We'll talk about these slides first, and then we'll come back and tell the story of how to build your reports from end to end. And we'll start by building some simple reports. We'll do some recipients, and then we'll go ahead and schedule those in that order. So first, we'll just go through the slides so you get a high-level overview of how NPrinting works, and then we'll drop into the detail once we're done through with the slides. Well, we'll get through these slides fairly quickly. So here's some of the hardware and software requirements. The NPrinting client and or the server requires only a single gigabyte of RAM. Much of the processing power is necessary from the ClickView desktop, which NPrinting requires in order to generate its reports from. So very little memory utilization from the NPrinting client or server actually. The majority of the processing is managed by the ClickView desktop. NPrinting sends API calls over to the ClickView desktop, in which the ClickView desktop then is used to generate our NPrinting reports. The Microsoft Office Windows 8, Windows 7, Vista, SP1, and so on, all of these are can be used. However, Server 2003, XP, Windows XP have actually been deprecated already, so I need to actually remove this from this slide, as we actually do not actually support those anymore. They will work on there, but they are not supported any longer. Also, that's important to know for your planning and implementation of your NPrinting client and server as well. So if you're still in an XP and a Server 2003 environment, keep in mind that that has been deprecated by ourselves, but not only by ourselves, but by Microsoft as well. Some software requirements, a minimum of SR ClickView Desktop SR5 or later, SR ClickView 10 or 11. Now, just keep in mind, even ClickView is going to be removing support, if they haven't already, for ClickView Desktop 9. So in your planning for all you new partners out there, please, consider having SR10, ClickView 10, SR10, ClickView 10 SR2 or later, or preferably ClickView 11 or higher, simply to ensure that you're, that you're going to be looking forward-looking to needs in the future, rather than sort of managing some software that will become legacy shortly. So my suggestion is that you consider ClickView 10 or higher only, even though ClickView 9 is currently temporarily supported still by us. So so even if the ClickView server is enterprise or small business edition, these versions are all supported. The NPrinting inherits the limitations of the ClickView license. So we recommend using a named user cal. So if you have, for example, a document cal, you'll only be able to create reports for that single document. And that creates a pretty pretty strong limitation for your NPrinting developer. So we strongly suggest that you use a named cal in order to develop NPrinting reports. Now, what's the difference between a virtual machine and a virtualized application? Well, virtual machines themselves are supported. A virtual machine, obviously, is anywhere you can install an operating system and run it as if it were an actual physical machine. Virtualized application, on the other hand, is not supported. And what is a virtualized application? That's, for example, like Office 365, which is stored in the cloud. Virtualized applications like Office 365 cannot be used with NPrinting to develop NPrinting reports. But what you need to do is install a local copy of MS Office on your desktop, preferably Office 2007 or higher. The NPrinting server actually does not need the MS Office installed unless you have an NPrinting client developer on that same machine. So of course you can send email through a couple of options, preferably through an SMTP server, as this gives you more options for embedding email reports directly in the email. And we're actually going to talk about that a bit later on in the training this morning. The MAPI client with NPrinting is a trusted account is possible. Although you can use the MAPI client, we suggest that you use SMTP server as it gives you more options for developing reports and embedding HTML reports inside of an email for delivery. If you're using SMTP with SSL, you can install SSL, but you must install a 32-bit SSL version, as NPrinting is still a 32-bit platform. So the following software has been deprecated, so I do have to update my slide a bit earlier. ClickView 9 support is being deprecated eventually, so keep that in mind in your planning. Of course, BullZip, if you're an existing partner and you're familiar with the older versions of NPrinting, we use the software called BullZip. In any case, that's also been deprecated. NPrinting has its own built-in PDF generator now. As well as Windows XP and Server 2003. Again, support for these was ended by Microsoft earlier this year. Okay, well, so start diving a little lower from the 50,000 foot level, and let's drop down to 40,000 feet here. We're going to talk about at a high level the suggested folder structure, and when we come into the development, I'll show you what that actually looks like. But I do want to talk about activation. There are two types of activations with NPrinting at the moment. There's an online, and that's simply if you can get to the internet from your NPrinting client or server, you can perform an online activation, which means you enter the key, press OK, and the activation process is automatically done, and you're ready to roll with your NPrinting client development and server automation. Offline, however, is if you have a firewall between your desktop or your server and the internet. So we have an offline activation process, which requests that you generate a request file. You send it to us at support@vizubi.com, and then we respond to you with an RSP file. The most important thing to know here about activation is that the actual license file that you end up with, whether it's offline or online, combines machine information with the key information into one file. So what this means to you is if you have changing IP addresses or changing hardware such as CPU or RAM, what you need to do in that case is deactivate the license, in the same area that you activate the license, of course, and make your changes to your computer, and then you simply reactivate the license. Of course, if you aren't able to do that because of a machine crash or failure, we are also able to deactivate the license for you. Again, you would just contact us at support@vizubi.com. Okay, and again, we'll be coming back to this, the creation of an NSQ. So that's something we'll talk about here shortly, and we'll come back to that after we get to the slides. So let's talk about connections. What is a connection? So connections are there's at least one in each NPrinting project. If you want to create a multi-doc report, meaning connecting to two different QVWs to create a single NPrinting report, you'll need at least two QVW connections inside of NPrinting. And of course, I'll show you how that works as well coming up here in a few moments. Connections are made to ClickView documents only, so there is no third-party document or data source in which NPrinting can connect to. So ClickView are the only source documents for NPrinting reports. Now this information following is also very important. Connections are made through a local drive, network drive, or a QVP connection to the server. Please keep in mind mapped drives are not supported. Mapped drives are not supported. Mapped drives are user-based, and if you have that when you try to run it from a different account, the map drives will fail and your reports will not be delivered. In fact, report processing will likely fail. So please remember to use a network, not a network drive. Use a local drive, a network path, or a QVB connection. So so if you use a UNC path, for example, server name / share name, that is supported. All right. So as we go through the training this morning, we'll show you some of the common interface buttons. Let's talk about the NPrinting reports. There are two types. So there's two types. Well, the first is based on NPrinting templates, which are MS Office templates, HTML templates, and Pixel Perfect templates. The other type of reports are ClickView entity reports, in which you can leverage any existing ClickView report or any ClickView object for that matter. So you can report on an entire sheet, or you can report on an existing ClickView report. You can even report on a single ClickView object. Okay, and we'll actually create one of those for you this morning. Keep in mind that you can actually create CSV exports if you create a ClickView entity report with a chart that contains the data you want to export, you can actually use that report to export to a CSV file. Other output options are PDF and images as well for an entity report. And Pixel Perfect Reporting, which is a relatively new banded reporting editor in NPrinting. No additional download or add-on is required for this, and it's available within NPrinting Client 15.0 or higher. And again, I'll show you how to create a Pixel Perfect report this morning, a basic Pixel Perfect report this morning as well. We'll talk about filters. We'll show you how to create a number of filters. Today will be both a static and dynamic filter. We'll show you how to do that in the training this morning. But there are three types of filters that you can create in NPrinting. So there's field level filters, there's variables as filters, and you can use ClickView bookmarks as filters as well. One more thing you can do is import a selection of filters, import a set of ClickView selections as a filter, and you can use that as a filter as well in your reports, and we'll show you how to do that as well. So filters can be multi-connection, but the new chart filters cannot be, and we'll show you actually how to do a chart, an individual chart-by-chart report later in the training this morning as well. This is very important. This is a very important slide. So this is the filtering priority. A filter will only be applied once. Okay, so if you apply a filter at the chart level, the filter cannot be applied again as a recipient at the recipient level, for example. So if you plan on, this is very important, if you plan on doing recipient level filtering, you cannot use that filter at the chart level. That will disrupt your filtering at the recipient level. Okay, so it's important to note that right off the bat. So chart level filters basically have the highest level of priority, and task level filters have the lowest. So here's some filter parameters that we'll go through in the training as well this morning directly here shortly. These are the types, but we'll talk about them in more detail when we actually do the creation of filters later in the training this morning. And we'll talk about recipients. It's important to note that recipients can be people, organizations, internal, external. A recipient can be anything you want it to be. It can be, like I said, a person, or it can be a place. Just keep in mind, it can be a destination, like a city, so a city government office, that type of thing. So how you set up recipients are by creating filters on each recipient, so that those recipients receive the specific type of information that they require. Or you can create unfiltered recipients as well. It's really up to you and depends on the type of automation and delivery you need to organize in your organization. So tasks, there are a number of tasks. These are the 6 tasks that are available to you in NPrinting today, but you'll be focused primarily in report tasks on a day-to-day basis. And if you have hundreds and hundreds of recipients that you need to deliver to, you will also be focused in on the creation of recipient import tasks. Now you only need to create the import tasks once, and they run automated. And then you only have to make, if you need to create separate recipient import tasks, then you can do that as well. But once you get a recipient import task set up, you can just let it run on a daily basis, and you don't have to worry about it after that, unless you need to make some specific changes or create new recipient imports. All right. So, and then finally we'll get into jobs and schedules, and that's very straightforward, very, very simple to set up, and I'll show you how to do that. Just one thing to let you know, that you can actually use the NPrinting client to run a schedule. Now there's some great disadvantages to doing that. The first and foremost is that this disables all other NPrinting features. Also, you have to keep the NPrinting client logged on, and you must turn off all screensavers or any auto-locking features that might be enabled on the client. So this is where it's important to understand that the NPrinting server is very helpful and useful in that area. The NPrinting server schedules are automated on the NPrinting server. You simply need to load the NSQ into the NPrinting files watch list. And then finally we'll get back to some questions. So now we're ready to get into the development of some NPrinting reports. So I'll start up the NPrinting client first of all. Okay. So let's go ahead and create a new NSQ. So for those of you that are new to NPrinting as partners or clients, this is how you create your first NSQ. Okay, so just backing out again, all you do is start up the NPrinting client, click File, and just say no because we're starting over for you. So click File, okay, click New. You'll be prompted to create a connection instantly. So let's go ahead and create a connection. And let's go into our NPrinting partner training, and let's make our first connection. So we'll connect to the salesdemo.qbw. Now there's two types, and first of all, let's name this. And a good naming convention is simply to copy the name of the QBW and use that as the name of the connection. Of course, you could type a description if you like. And of course, you can also use this as a default connection. There's a couple of ways you can do the click view doc. You can do a local path, or you can do a network path, which would look something like, local host, and this is what we were talking about in the slides, and something like that. So that would be a network path. This is what's called the UNC network path. So we're going to use a local path in this case, but I want to show you one more way to connect to the server is through the QVP connection. So you can either leave the variable here, go into the NPrinting server, and set up your default ClickView QVP server here. And this variable will pick up what your default QVP server should be. Or you can just type it in here, for example, like local host. Then you would click the 3 ellipses buttons here to view all the ClickView documents that are on the QVP server. So we're not going to use a QVP connection today. We're just going to use a ClickView document, a local ClickView document. So let's go back into our sales demo. And of course here, if you have section access enabled on the QVW, you need to put the section access information here. In the case of NPrinting reporting, please, we do suggest that you remove the section access so that you can rely on the NPrinting report recipient level filters to deliver the right information to the right people. Now, the last point I want to make on this page is that you can also clear all selections. So clear all selections is important if you want to start the report from a baseline state. This will ensure that clear all selections will ensure that all the selections that are inside the QVW are actually cleared so that you're creating a report from a baseline state. Let's go ahead and save and close here. Do you want to create an object list to speed up processes? And yes, you can certainly say yes to this. Depending on the size of your QVW, it'll take either a couple of seconds to a couple of minutes. So that's just loading. And click OK when prompted. And so click the Resources button here, option menu option here, and you can see your first connection is clean, is created. Now, in order to make a document, a ClickView report from 2 documents, you can go ahead and make another connection. Connect to that other document, and then you can go ahead and click Sales Compass and just save the name of that in here. And you don't want to make this the default connection because we already have one, and then of course you can use clear all selections. You can open the QVW from here, and you can also refresh the object cache from here. So if your objects change inside the QVWs and you know they've changed, what you need to do is come back here to the connection and refresh the objects list so that your reports know that they have the most recent objects. Meaning if you change, remove, or add any ClickView objects, you need to come back here into the source connection and refresh the objects list so that NPrinting reporting can have the most recent object list information from the QVW. So I'll just say yes. We won't be creating a multi-doc report today. We'll be doing that in the advanced training on Thursday. If you're in Western Europe, and if you're in the Asia Pacific zone, that would be your Friday. Okay, so now we have 2 QVWs, so we're ready to create some reports. So let's go in and create a simple NPrinting report, Excel report. So let's go on in here. And so if you missed that, all I did is clicked at the very top left corner. Well, first I selected the type of report I want to create. So you can create an Excel report, HTML, Pixel Perfect, PowerPoint, ClickView Entity, or Word reports. I want to click on Excel reports and click the Excel report button to create a new report. So we'll call this one Basic. Now you'll notice here that this connection window is empty. You might be asking yourself, well, why is that empty? I created a source connection down here. Well, the answer is simply this. you need to actually go into the template editor to make that change. So in this case, we don't have any templates. We'll create a new template, and we'll bring the template editor over here. I'll make that nice and big so everybody can see it. Okay, so again, you can also move and adjust the size and the position of these items as well. Okay, so see, you notice here that the connection box is still empty. Well, how do we get that populated? Now, if you right-click on a page, on level, images, cells, variables, formulas, and sorry, on cells any of these 5 items, you can right-click on them to add an object. So when you click, let's go ahead and add a table object. That's just grabbing the object list. Okay. So let's choose chart 184, for example. Okay. So we have top 25 products. Let's drag top 25 products into somewhere onto the template editor. Let's save the template before we continue. I'm just going to save and close, and just when I go back here all the way out, I'm saving close, and I'm going to save the NSQ because we haven't actually done that. So I've gone all the way out of my report. I've created a report template. I've gone all the way out, all the way to saving the NSQ now. So I want to save it and just give it a name. And while we're here, saving the NSQ, let's talk about the file structure, the folder structure that we talked about in the slides earlier. So you have a folder here for your NPrinting files, which is where we're going to store NSQ. And we'll call our new NSQ basic training. And now we've stored our NSQ. Let's go back into that folder structure. And let's talk about the folder structure while we're in it. So again, NPrinting files, again, this is a suggested folder structure you can use. You can use whatever is more suitable to you, but this is something to give you a heads up and head start as to how you might want to organize your NPrinting files and folders. So NPrinting files contains the NSQs. Output this would be your default output folder. Personal folders is where you can store individual users' output. QBWs, of course, is where the QBWs will be stored. Recipients, this is where your recipients lists and so on and so forth might be stored for your recipient import processes. There's a place to connect your NPrinting temp folder to, and that's, you can also use this folder. And of course your templates. This is where you'll store, this is where you would store all the templates that you create with your NPrinting report builder. So that's a basic structure you can use. You can store it locally, or you can store it on the server. And if you're storing things on the server and you need to connect over the network, then you need to set up your paths in which utilize server name, share name, network paths, that type of thing. But this is basically the kind of structure you can use. So let's continue on with our report this morning. We'll go back into our reports. Click Reports here to enable the list of reports. Go to Excel Reports, and we have our Excel report, our basic report created. And now you can see that now that we've added a table inside the template editor, this connection box is populated. Okay? All right. And while we're in here, you can also enable dynamic naming on a report. So there's a number of options for report dynamic naming. You simply can add a number of fields here. You can add as many as you need to, in fact, but here are the options. So if you're using cycling, so if you're using the cycle option inside the report, you can actually use the cycle field to create your name on as well. And of course, you can down here, if you look in the preview area, you'll see the previewed name of the report as the report will appear in the output. Cycling, basically, if you use a filter inside, basically you're using a filter inside a cycle. For example, if you have a dimension for all cities, if you use this cycle, you'll create a separate report, a separate identical report for each city in that set of dimension values. And of course, you can use in this field, it would be the city name that would be populated here. And here are some of the other objects: time, date, a click-view variable, recipient name, and of course you can even enter custom text. So we just actually covered the concept of cycling, as well as enabling of dynamic, enabling NPrinting dynamic naming. Okay, so let's go back into the report and continue building the report. Okay. So let's go ahead and make that larger again. And all we did here is drag this one top-level chart object to the template editor, and in fact we're ready to preview. These are your preview options. You have XLSX, XLSM, and all these other options including PDF. In this case we're just going to preview with with XLSX, and let's make that larger, and instantly you have a NPrinting report. Okay, so that's very, very basic at a fundamental level. Let's get a little more interesting now. So let's leave this chart object up here, and I want to show you what a report looks like if you remove source formats. So let's remove source formats on each separate individual field. So see where if you click on each individual field, you can remove keep source formats. Okay. Now, click on the toolbar button here to enable the, in order to enable the menu here, sorry, one moment, I'll just bring that up again, I'll just pin it. Great. So click the toolbar button to enable the MS Office ribbon, which contains all these items here. And now you're ready to create your own report with your own formats. Well, let's have a look at what that might look like. I'll just spread this out a bit so all the information fits. Highlight, right, and bold, and if you want to center, of course, and let's say you want money formats. Highlight the areas that need to have money format, and of course percentages, and maybe you want to highlight the product name tag as well. Okay, so NPrinting creates a tag for each field. When you move the tags to the template editor, you're able to start formatting individual the data inside the tags. And let's just actually have a look at what that looks like now. Okay, let's just make this a little bigger. Okay, so here's our original table, chart 184. And let's actually look at chart 184 inside of the QBW. Right? So you can see that the formats are very similar, and NPrinting will do best efforts to make the output look just like this. Basically, the colors, the font format, those kind of things are kept almost virtually identical. So you can see that the colors are the same. There's no formatting in dollars and gross profit or total sales, and yeah, very, very simple, straightforward. Now, our formatting, on the other hand, right? We've removed keep source formats. We don't have any. We have now dollar signs in here, and our own sort of bolding on the headers. Of course, you can do more with this. For example, let's do a little bit more formatting here. Of course, you can use as much of, you can leverage the Microsoft ribbon as much as you need to in order to develop your NPrinting reports. You can also do summing inside a report like this as well. So how does that look? Let's do a sum on total sales. And to do that, you put the target sale down 2 cells below the tag cell. So what you want to sum to is select the tag cell and the cell just beneath the tag cell and click enter. Do not include this target cell because that will create a circular reference and the summing won't work. Let's do that again for gross profit. So gross profit, grab the tag cell and the cell just beneath the tag cell and click enter. And now you have summing for gross profit. Well, I want some formatting on that also. Maybe I want it to be green for money, that sort of thing. And maybe I want it to be bold. Maybe I want my product name bolded as well. Maybe I want the font to be a little bigger for the totals. All right. And because you made a lot of profit last year in your division, maybe you want to make some more space for all those zeros. Okay. So click Save and then Preview. Okay. So let's just make the output bigger. And what happens with our summing? So as you can see, NPrinting can also do summing if you leverage the MS Office tools. Okay, so we covered quite a bit here since we were able to get going this morning. Are there any questions that you have at this point? Now we're only just getting started, but if you have any questions, feel free to jump in and go ahead and ask those. Okay, so we'll continue. We're going to use this report later on as well when we use our distribution task, and I'll show you, and that'll be very meaningful and important to show you how to deliver data to specific individuals, filtered for specific individuals. That is near closer to the end during the scheduling and automation portion of the training this morning. Okay, so let's go back into the template. I have a question. How to give color to identity the values GP like QB chart? Well, you can just you can actually keep the same, you can keep source formats. If you want to keep the same colors as the QB chart, then you simply go into gross product, for example, and just keep source formats. So if you can actually keep source formats on one column and leave the others untouched. So let's go ahead and see how that looks to answer your question. Right? So there you go. So you don't have to deselect all the fields. You can actually deselect the fields that you want to deselect and keep the source formatting on the fields that you want to as well. Okay? All right. You're very welcome. Okay, so continuing on. Let's go ahead and use the page feature now. So I'm going to add salespeople to this. Okay. So the page feature when you add a dimension that contains a number of dimension values to the page feature, let's just go ahead and add another row. Okay. And just type bold. Okay, and you notice down here that there's a salesman page underscore page tag. Now I don't want to have these other sheets, so you can go ahead and delete those. Okay. So now you're good to go. Let's do a little quick preview on this and watch what happens. So let's preview that. Let's open that up. And you'll notice that we have approximately 12 salespeople in our test organization. And guess what happens? not only do you have sums, but you have sums for each individual salesperson in the organization, formatted the way you want, and for the people that have to have them individually. So there's a tab for each salesperson in the organization. So that's the page feature. Again, we're going to use this particular this particular report later in the automation portion of the training to show you the power of delivering specific reports to specific and with containing specific information to the right end users. So we're going to show you that later on as well. So I have a question. I've tried sorting the Excel report in NPrinting but didn't manage it. I tried the functions, but it didn't. What functions are? I've tried the sorting in Excel but didn't manage. So sorting some functions, but it didn't. Unfortunately, sorting doesn't actually, we can't manage the sorting inside of NPrinting, unfortunately. So sorting needs to be done, you know, in the order that you want it in the QBW, then report on it in NPrinting. Unfortunately, we can't. There isn't a sorting tool. But if you have it sorted in a specific manner in your QBW, you should be able to report on that sort format. Sorry, it's just something that isn't available in the tool at the moment. Is that what you were trying to figure out, or? Okay, thanks for your question. Appreciate it. All right, so we saw the page feature. We saw adding a table to the tables node. You can also add images. So for example, if you want to add a specific image to a report, let's say you want to add this, I don't know, this sales chart, for example. Properties. Check the properties to find the chart number. All right. And it's chart 187. And so if you want to add the chart in here and preview, right? And so you can also add a chart information to your report as well, of course. In the form of images, of course. So, and later on, we're going to actually show you how to do a chart level filter. We'll be creating that report in the training this morning as well. Just some of the features of chart format, of image formatting, I just wanted to show you quickly. So over here, if you click on the chart, you can actually manage if you use the stretch feature and type the specific dimensions, and by the way, this is in pixels, by the way, not dots per square inch. So if you type 300 by 300, you know, it'll come out in 300 by 300 and 600 by 600 or 400 by 600, whatever you decide, right? So just wanted to make you aware of that. This is not dots per square inch, it is pixels. Let's see if. And yeah, that's primarily, I wanted to show you how to manage picture sizes. There are a number of formats, stretch types you can use: don't fit, fit inside, fit width, and fit height. So just try you basically need to try and work with each one in order to decide which one works best for you. So it's just a simple preview to see how each one outputs. One of them should be the type that works for your specified output, or your required output. Okay, so let's go ahead and, so now we've saved this report. We're going to save this report. We'll use this report for our distribution task later. Let's go ahead and create a report with levels. So it's a good idea to save and close your reports and save the NSQ when you've done a lot of work. If you added a bunch of filters, and just come back here to the top left corner on the main home page and click this little disk button, or you can go File and save to save the NSQ. So you want to save the NSQ, fairly regularly. And there isn't the autosave feature, so keep that in mind when you're developing your reports and filters, tasks, and schedules. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a levels report. And we'll create a new report. And before we do that, I just want to show you another important concept here. So if you have corporate logos on your some existing templates, you can actually use those templates inside your NPrinting reports as well. So you can leverage current marketing, current spreadsheets or PowerPoints that your organization has in place already. You simply need to click the ellipsis button here, for example, and go to wherever you've stored those templates. And as you can see here, I have a blank template that I can use. There isn't any image on it, but just the idea that you can actually use and edit an existing template. Okay? So let's go ahead, and I'm going to actually create a new template for this report. And again, down here you can see that the connection bar is empty. Again, it will stay empty until we create our new report. So let's go ahead and open up the template editor, nice and big. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a level report. Add levels. We'll go 184. And we'll go ahead and drag these individual fields in. Okay, so let's just drag the individual fields in. So levels is a little different than using tables in an NPrinting report, because each level calculates each row individually. Okay, and that's important for calculated fields, which I'll also be showing you today as well, or calculated columns in this case. So what we have here, let's just widen this out a bit more. And let's just name those. Actually, let's just bring that down a bit further. Gross profit and cost of goods sold. All right, so I'm putting that in there. Of course, we don't have a cost of goods sold field in here, but if we want to actually create a calculated column here, so how do we do that? Just you can leverage my MS Office to do this. So all you do is some basic, let's see here, equals, what is it, C4 minus D4, click enter, right? And that's all there is to it. So now you've got a little bit more work to do. When you're using levels, you actually need to drag the top level item onto the template editor right here, for example. These tags will disappear in the actual report. Okay, so just keep that in mind. But you do need to have the tags, the opening tag and the closing tag, wrap around your data row here. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a little bit more. Let's say total sales and gross profit, and we want to, let's select actually all these fields here and just click the $sign, and we're ready to preview. Let's make that large, and now you can see how NPrinting has created a cost of goods sold column by leveraging Microsoft Office simple calculations. All right, so yes, you can actually create data fields or data columns based on some calculations as well. If you leverage levels. So that's one thing levels can do. There's more, and let me show you what that means. So let's just insert another row here. Of course, this is kind of a bland report, so let's color it up a bit. Make some background, total sales, gross profit, and you want that again, change it up to some other color. And of course, you can still do summing. And you can also sum your value column as well. Yeah, and sum. And enter. Now, that's not what I want to show you. What I want to show you is this. So let's add another level. Right? And let's add year. So let's just bring in the year tags. Let's wrap the year tags just above and below all this information. And then we'll just show you what the output of that is. So let's go ahead and save our template first, just so we save all the work that we've done here. We've done, and just save and close. Save the NSQ again, either up here at the top left in home or file save. Let's go back into our report, and we'll go back. You can actually edit it from here, or you can edit it inside the template preview from the report window or from inside the template editor. Let's go ahead and preview. So now we have our cost of goods sold. Of course, there's by year now. So why didn't the year show up? Because we actually need to do one more thing. Okay, so if we want the year to show up, let's just add another, just to separate the report between years a bit. I'll just drag this tag down by 1. So we'll expand the year level, and then of course just drag this over here. And of course you can bold that and do all kinds of formattings as needed. Remember to keep source formats, and just say 12. I will preview that. And this is a good reason. So Microsoft has failed for me. So let me just restart the program quickly for you. And just if you can bear with me while that takes place. Sorry about that. That happens sometimes. And I'm going to just getting my application restarted. Sorry about this. Sometimes it gets a little, sometimes Microsoft Office gets a little funny. So I'm just restarting stuff for you in the background here. And I'm just about set for you, and I'm just going to go ahead. Okay. So we're back. And the report is just generating. Okay, so let's just hide the, okay, here we go. All right, so we made some, unfortunately the change didn't save. Let me just re-add that change for you. My apologies for that. Okay. So this is a good reason to save your NSQ often. Thankfully we did that. So let's just go ahead and add some, readjust those changes, because of the MS Office crash. You just got to resave these changes in here again. So let's just add the year level. And I'll just increase the size and bold. And I'm going to save my template quickly and go ahead and preview. Okay, now we're set. All right, so now you can see that using levels, and as well as leveraging Microsoft tools to do your calculated columns, you have all that data that was in one chart now split up into 3 years, which is we have 3 years in our data. So that's how a level works. Any question about levels? Okay. Yeah, if you have a question, just let me know. All right, so let's go on to the next report. I'll just close this off for you. I'll close the template. And I'll save the MSQ. Okay, so let's go and create a simple HTML report next. Again, this is all pretty straightforward stuff. We'll get into Pixel Perfect, PowerPoint, and this stuff as well, but it's all good information to have on hand when you're ready to create these types of reports. So let's go ahead, pretty much the same idea, create a new template, add some information. So add object, same idea. And of course we'll just use 184 here. And it's as simple as dragging the top level chart item in. Or you can actually bring in the individual fields as well. Again, this is a very, very simple HTML report. We're going to do a more advanced report on Thursday's training, but just to give you an idea, you can also use images and levels in this report, but we're just going to show you a very simple HTML report today. Save the template, and we're ready to preview. Of course, the very previewing form, there's only two. There's HTML and HTM. HTML reports are excellent for embedding inside of an email report, so keep that in mind. It's very useful for embedding inside of emails that are destined for specific recipients. Okay, so basically I've added the chart twice. Of course, I don't have any fancy sort of tabling, so it's let me just remove keep source formats for individual fields just so you can see the difference. Okay, and let's just do that and preview. Okay, so we didn't do any formatting on the second bit of information, but just to give you an idea, that's pretty simple to create an HTML report. Of course, you can do a lot with it. You can use your own style sheets. In this case, nothing fancy. You can make this as pretty as you want to based on your HTML skills, but the ability to do it is there. Okay, let's go ahead straight into Pixel Perfect. Now, Pixel Perfect is quite a bit different from standard HTML and Office reporting styles. Okay, so I'm going to do it now and get back into the Office and click the entity reports, but I just want to point that out right at the beginning, is that the reporting is quite a bit different than the standard MS Office and HTML reports. So when you open up a new template, for example, you have an entirely independent template editor. So this does not rely on Microsoft Office at all. You can build your own reports completely with the template editor. Okay, so let's go ahead and add images. Or sorry, let's just go ahead and add. Sorry, let me just back up for a minute. And this is an important difference here. So tables and levels. Okay, so tables is used to create pixel perfect charts. Okay, so if you want to create pixel perfect charts, you can use Click View Data. If you want to create spark lines, you can use Click View Data, table of contents, and so on and so forth. What you need to do to create pixel perfect level reports is to add levels. Okay, so for example, chart 184. And let's just grab, okay, before we move anything in, we have to do the same level architecture inside the template. Okay, so what does that mean? So as you simply right click on the detail band and insert detail report. Okay, and now you can see that the detail band matches the level out here. If you want to nest a level, which we'll be doing on Thursday, you would just add a level directly in here, and then you would also come back to and add that sub-level in here. But in today's report, we're going to keep it simple, and we're just going to create a very simple report today. We'll do some more advanced fun stuff on Thursday. Okay, so left click and hold to bring the data in the order that you've selected it. Right click and hold, drag it up here to bring in the column headers. That's going to save you a lot of time developing these NPrinting reports, these NPrinting pixel perfect reports. And you can do a little bit of formatting. This tool is enormously formatting rich, so you can do a great deal of stuff with this. So in this case, I'm going to change the background color. You can see that I've highlighted this entire row, and the property grid adjusts to your selections. Very important to know. So right now I've selected this entire row, and I'm going to change it from transparent to active caption. Okay, I'm going to make some borders around this particular row. Change it from none. Again, I've selected an entire row, and I'm going to select bottom, the left, bottom, and right borders, and then click the drop down to accept those changes. Let's go back to the top header row, and let's do borders for that as well. And click the drop down to accept the changes. If you don't like the font format, or if you want things to be a little larger and what have you, I can just select all the rows, change the size, and if you want to use a different font, of course you can do that as well. Just change it to Arial. And if you want to, you can actually do formatting as you'd like it to appear. Okay, so now we have our first PDF of our first Pixel Perfect report ready to go. Click Preview. And there's your first Pixel Perfect report. Very straightforward. Very straightforward. If you want to format the data fields, of course you can go into the task cell editor and format the string. We'll do this. This will be the last thing we manage today. We'll take care of more of this on summing and summing levels, various levels on Thursday in the advanced training. So you just go into the task cell editor, table cell editor, change the currency type. Of course, you can also create your own currency type as well. And click OK. The percentage column, you would do the same thing. Format the string, percent, and just select percent. And again, you can create your own format there as well. Preview that for you. And there you go. You have yourself. You can center all this as well. And again, this is just a very basic report. So just to give you an idea, that's a Pixel Perfect report. I have a question. what is the advantage of doing a pixel perfect report over Excel report? So it gives you, the pixel perfect report gives you a great deal of granular control over the the individual fields and as the name indicates, pixel perfect, for example, let's just preview that. As you can see, so let's just make that nice and big. So what is pixel perfect? So essentially pixel perfect is just that. If you scroll down and you zoom, you can see that the quality is enormously strong. So there's absolutely no pixelation. Some companies prefer this type of reporting style for the senior management, annual reports, that sort of thing. So that's basically your most important advantage with pixel perfect reports. Does that answer your question? Okay. Can we have a filter in a level? At the moment, there's an idea for that on our support site. If you'd like to vote for that, you can go to our ideas site on community.zuby.com. Just typing it in here. And search for, there are a number of ideas on the site, and if you go to this slide, if you go to that site, you can actually view that idea. It is an idea that's been added recently, so please go ahead and vote for that idea on the site. Can we have a so that's regarding your field. Okay, you're welcome. Is developing with pixel perfect slower? Well, the functionality is not slower, but it takes more time. Yes, I mean, as you can see here, you're dragging individual cells potentially in, and oh, you're welcome. You're dragging potential cells, and you're creating cell by cell formatting, but the output, is enormous. Is just, I mean, it's pixel perfect quality. So the opportunity cost is that the report does take longer to create, but the output tight. The quality of the output can be enormous enough that you're it's worth the extra time. Okay, you're welcome. Hey, great questions. Thank you very much. All right, so I'm going to close our pixel. Okay, so I didn't follow our own best practices. I didn't save the template right away. I should have done that right at the beginning if I didn't. In any case, I've saved it now. Save and close, and I'm going to save the NSQ. All right, so let's go ahead and create a PowerPoint report. And we'll go ahead and create a new report. Well, actually, let's go ahead and let's call this basic. And I have an existing template I'm going to use because it's blank. And I'll go ahead and edit. And make that larger. Okay, so let's maybe just use 2 slides here. Copy. And perhaps we'll use a page feature. And we'll use year. Click and type year. Where's year? Okay. So on our first page, we'll have year. Right, and let's add an image and a table. 186. Let's just add a couple images. 180, 186, and 187. These are familiar. Okay. Just drop these in. Of course, drag and drop. That's all there is to it. Right, and just slide that, position it properly. And of course, you have some stretch options here. And over here, let's do. All right, let's do another very interesting thing that's very useful. Let's go ahead and add a formula. You can use ClickView syntax to generate formulas to create calculations as well. So let's go ahead, and we want to use the sales demo connection, and we want to do sum sales. Okay, it says 0, of course, because the fields are case sensitive, right? So let's see if I can remember my ClickView syntax: text, money, sum sales, comma, money, format. Okay. So if you know your ClickView syntax, you can format the formula as well. So what does that mean for us? So let's just give that a better name. Call that sum of sales. Click OK. Now let's drag that value down here. Just call that total sales. All years. Okay. Now let's go back up here, and let's drag that formula down here as well. Of course, you can use the alignment tools to line up your tags, your NPrinting tags, and we're ready to do our preview. All right, good. So what happens here? So now we have total sales for 2012, total sales for 2013, and total sales for 2014 using a ClickView formula inside our NPrinting report. And let's look at the last sheet. Of course, total sales in all years. Okay, so it's important to note that you can use ClickView formulas inside of NPrinting reports as well. And that's, of course, you can do that with all the MS Office and template editors. There's a tool. There's another tool for doing that inside of the Pixel Perfect report, but we won't be handling that today. But that's how to do it with the MS Office and HTML templates. Any questions about that? I'm going to go on to the. I'm going on next to the ClickView entity report, I believe. Yeah, that's what we're doing. Okay. So let's go ahead and do the ClickView entity report. And we'll grab an object ID. Why not 184 again? Okay. Simple as that. Of course, you can enter filters, cycles, and conditions. We aren't actually covering conditions today. We'll be talking about that in the training on Thursday. All right, so let's go ahead and preview that. And of course, this PDF output of that's our output format for this. And of course, that's a PNG. So I'll just close that. And just recall that we'll be using this report in our distribution task to show you how this particular report will be exported to a CSV. We'll show you that coming up as well. But I want to get that done for you quickly. And of course, just to show you the output formats are as follows: PDF, PNG, JPEG, TIFF, and of course CSV. Okay. So I'll just save and close on that. I'm not going to do a Word report today. That pretty much is very similar to the other information, simply because we're already at just over an hour. We really got to get into filter, the discussion of filters and recipients and so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and get into that chat now. Okay, so let's see, so tasks. So let's go ahead and create a recipient first of all. So when you create a recipient, just go ahead and type the information, test user, okay? You can add an ID, type an email, and you can define a folder. So if you come back over here and copy your folder path, there's two ways to do it. You can either type the path in, you can either scroll, you can either navigate to the path, or you can copy the path and just paste it into the folder path here. Just select the folder, right? What you're seeing here is relative paths, which is a very useful feature when you're moving files from the client to the server. So relative paths are a very, very cool new feature that NPrinting supports. If you're familiar with relative paths in ClickView, it's the same process. So let's just enter a subname, so test user. Different types of security. So if you still have ClickView security that the end user requires, you can enable it here. Of course, as we suggested earlier, that for NPrinting reporting to remove any ClickView security section access, so that you can rely on NPrinting security to deliver the reports to the right people at the right time. You can also enable PGP encryption. So you enable PGP encryption. So you can set that up with NPrinting as well. Not many people use that too much anymore, but you can if you prefer to use that. Report security is based on MS Office report security, password to open and password to write. I think it's like 40-bit encryption. It's not terribly strong, but it's there for you if you need it. Okay, so let's go into, you can add these other details as well, which can be used for creating a recipient. Most importantly is creating recipient filters, okay? This is absolutely essential. Please follow closely during this section. So filters, we're creating filters now. So in order to create a recipient level filter, let's say we want to add a filter. Okay, well we don't have any filters yet, so we need to create a new filter, right? So let's call this sales. Let's call this sales test user. Okay. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, there's in the slides, there's three types of filters: fields, variables, and bookmarks. Okay? All right. So fields, variables, so we're creating a field level filter. You can use ClickView variables, or you can use ClickView bookmarks as a filter as well. Today we're just going to use field level variables. So let's go ahead and add a filter. Let's click on the ellipsis here next to name and decide on the filter we're going to use. So salesman. All right. Okay. So down here on the bottom left, you can add a filter directly using some values, or you can just clear that, or you add values from a sales demo dimension. Okay. So this filter is created. Wherever this filter is assigned to, that recipient will be filtered for Tom Lindwall's sales information only. Now, let's actually talk about some of these parameters that we talked about in the slides earlier. So in detail, you can actually lock this parameter as you would lock it in ClickView, for example. So you would select Tom Lindwald in sales. Well, basically, let me just demonstrate by selecting one value and then clicking lock. That is essentially the same idea in NPrinting. So let's clear. So the lock feature is basically the same thing as in ClickView. Verify filter, on the other hand, is very important if you want to deliver reports only if a filter if there's data in the filter. So if there's no data for a specific filter, an NPrinting report won't be delivered to that specific recipient. So just keep that in mind for verify filter. It's very important. Select excluded. Simply, it does just that. It will send, if you apply this filter with the select excluded option to a specific user's recipient, everybody except Tom Lindwald's information will be delivered to that user. Drop field and reduce. There is a reduce task in NPrinting in which you can reduce QVWs. If you want to reduce the entire QVW to remove the field, all the information, all the data for Tom Lindwald, then you would just drop this field in the reduce process. And you would add this filter to the reduce task, and that would drop this field when you run the reduce task for the QVW. So you can use clear selections and unlocked. If locked together, it's a good match. Basically, this will allow you to clear selections, but if you have any locked items in the QVW, it will force those items to become unlocked, and at the same time clearing any selections that might be enabled as a result of the field being locked. So that's what that's how you can manage locked fields and using clear selections. Okay, so that's creating a filter. So that filter is now applied to this test user sales, and that's basically how to create a single recipient. Okay, right? So let's just go back in and save and publish this filter, and then you would actually have to come back into the filter to publish it if you want that recipient to be available enterprise-wide. Now, you might ask yourself, well, I've got thousands of recipients, right? This is going to take a long time. How can I get around that? Well, and the answer is this. You would want to create a recipient import task. So you click on tasks, right? And you click on the report task, and you just call it task. Let's call it recipient task. Okay, so now we're at the recipient import task. Let's go ahead and add a report. Sorry, what are we doing here? Okay, so this is not a recipient. Sorry, my apologies. I've got the wrong task. So let's click on import recipient tasks. Now we're in the right place. My apologies. Okay, so click the import recipient task button, and what you want to do right off the bat is delete old recipients. Okay, unless you need to keep them on file for some reason, in order to automate and clean up your schedules on in the automation process, you want to delete old recipients. There's a couple other options. You can import only new recipients, and you can modify only existing recipients, or sorry, only modified recipients in the recipient import file. Typically, you see folks using the all recipients in conjunction with delete old recipients. So now we need something to import. So we need to click on the recipient imports. And do we have a recipient import? No, we don't. So we need to create a new recipient import. And there's a number of ways to import recipients. You can do it from a file, which is what we're going to do today. You can do it from a directory service, and you can do it from a ClickView entity. So if you have all your list of recipients inside a ClickView document, you can use that ClickView document to import the recipient list. If you use a directory service, that introduces some limitations simply because you won't be able to add filters, create filters inside the directory service that contains the recipient information. Basically you'll just be able to import the first name and last name of the recipient. So it's probably a good idea to import from either a file or from a ClickView entity. So we're going to import from a file today. We're going to import from an Excel file. I'm looking for an Excel SX file. So I want to go in and change the extension to Excel SX. Let's go into the recipients folder where I have my Excel SX file. Now before I actually open this file or select it, I'm going to open it to show you how it's configured. Okay, so this is essentially it in a nutshell. Let's try and make this a bit smaller. Okay, perfect. All right, so this is what your recipient import looks like, your recipient import file. And we have tutorials about and information about how to build your filters correctly, and there are tutorials on that. In fact, the documentation I'm sending you, the slides, does have a tutorial on how to build these filters. So in this case, I've created a bunch of salesman filters, and I've also created a current year and previous year filter, which we're going to use for our chart level report coming up shortly as well. Okay, so that's the structure. You can see there's the salesman email filter group and the folder and the subfolder. So I'm going to close that now. That needs to be closed before you can import it. I'll go ahead and open it in the mapping tool in the import wizard, and I'll click next. And I know the first row starts on row 2. I'll click next again. Okay. So now you can see that XLSX file I just showed you appears in their import wizard, which is basically a mapping tool. Okay, so what we want to do is start mapping. Let's click on the drop downs. Full name. Email. Filter. Group. Folder. Subfolder. And I'm not going to use the security ID and password information here today. So these are the only fields I'm going to map in here. Full name. There we go. ID, full name, email, good. So now we have all the fields mapped. All we need to do is go next and execute that. Now I have my filters, my recipients all imported. Okay, so this is only like 10 or 12. You can import as many recipients as you like. Okay, so I'm not going to import them yet. I'm going to just save them. I'm going to save and close. And I just want to show you, save and close again. So this is our recipient. Let's just name it properly so we can differentiate them. Okay, and save and close. Now let's go down to recipients. Okay, so now you can see that we have one recipient in here. So let's go back to tasks. Actually, let's save the NSQ here, top left corner. And let's go to recipient import task. Keep in mind, this task can also be scheduled, but I want to just run it manually today. Okay, so we have our recipients. Now check this out. So now we have all the recipients that we created, including some additional filters, right here inside the recipients list, right? All that information was. So you can see the advantage of using the recipient import to manage users new or deleted recipients in your enterprise. So it's as simple as that. So okay, so now we have a bunch of recipients. Those recipients can be imported on a nightly basis by scheduling that task, and we're going to show you how to schedule tasks shortly. But now we want to go back to our report task because we want to build a task that contains a report and show you how a report, first of all, how a report task works, but how distribution to specific individual works now that we've done the recipient import process. Okay, so first, right out, so go ahead and name your report. So report. Okay, and you want to now, well, let's stay on this general page here. So now we can see that the connection isn't enabled yet. Of course, we haven't added any reports. Once you add the report, this connection box will be populated. Most importantly, please remember to close the connection with task ends. What this does is it closes the QVW without saving it. So it leaves it in the state that the QVW was opened when the report is generated by NPrinting. So please remember to close the connection with task ends. There are some scenarios where you might want to leave it open. For example, if one task runs after another and they use the same NSQ, but in most cases you want to close connection when task ends. Here's some of the options for our output folder. Of course, the NPrinting training output, we want to change that to our output folder. NPrinting partner training and output. So select our output folder, right? And in this case, we're not even going to use the standard output folder, because what we want to do is we're going to deliver those reports to recipient folders to show you how distribution works. Okay. Of course, you can also distribute to a task folder with the recipient folder. You can also deliver to a custom folder. And a custom folder, some of your custom folder options are as follows. So you can have a custom path. You can create a click view variable. You can do recipient by recipient name. And of course, you can make the subfolder again. And you can see the preview down here. For example, recipient name. So yeah, so basically you can create a custom folder. Oh, and most importantly, just for your information, you can actually send as a custom as a destination. You can use an FTP destination as well. Okay, so in this case, we're not going to use any of those options. We're going to use the recipient folder. So some of the options when generating your report task are you can create compressed report. You can compress the entire archive, and you give it a name here. So that instead of having a bunch of different reports, you can have one file, one zip file. Of course, you can use the recipient password if you like, or you can set up your own password here as well. Give the archive a name, of course, and you can go from there. Of course, you can enter report security using this task as well. And another nice feature is that you can actually print hard copies to a printer. And the printer can be a physical printer, it can be a PDF printer. Typically people use groups of organizations use a physical printer for sending jobs to the, like a DeskJet or what have you. Of course, we're not going to print to any device today. And let's go ahead and save our task a bit. So we're not going to compress reports. So let's just save the task. Let's go to reports now. So let's go ahead and add a report. And we're going to use, remember our Excel basic report, we're going to add that. And this, just as a reminder, let's just go ahead and open that and preview it, just so you can remember what it looks like. And this is the report that uses the page feature that contains a salesperson for each page, right? So I'm going to leave that open just for reference purposes. Okay. So remember, that's the report we're using in our task here. Okay, so just save and close. All right, so also you can add, we're going to actually add the click the entity report, and you can add the same report twice, pardon me, if you want to, so that if you want to add the same report twice and change the output format, you can also do that as well. Okay. So I'm not going to actually include this report, so I'll just remove that one. Now, let's look at the Click the Entity report. By default, it's showing PDF, but we want to export that report as a CSV. Okay, and then let's go over here to the Advanced Ellipse button, and of course you can set your delimiters as you want to see them in the output. I'll just leave it as, I guess I'll just leave it as comma by default. Click OK. Both reports are active. You can see the state. You can disable the state by clicking this button. Okay, that's the report task state. You would have to go into the actual report to disable a state, and we want to use that report. So see how the state green checkbox disappears. So we want to enable the state. Okay. All right, so we have added our reports now in the formats that we want to see them. Let's go ahead and add our recipients. So now we have a bunch of recipients. So let's go ahead and add Elvis Presley, Ingrid. How about these four? And Helen Brolin. How about that? All right. Okay, so now we've added our recipients to the task. We don't want to add any filters to the task. They won't work anyway because we have recipient level filters, and if you recall, recipient level filters work before, have priority over task level filters. In any case, there is no need to add any filters at the task level. Okay, so now before we actually implement the task, some important concepts about messaging. So you can actually not only deliver these reports to a folder location, but you can also deliver these by email. So you can add email to specific recipients. You can deliver email to specific recipients, and you can add BCC and CC if you wish as well. You can type your subject, and you can actually use some tags, for example, like a recipient tag, information, department information, what have you. So in this case, I'll just for example say or full name, right? And in the body, you can actually embed while we created that email report earlier, that HTML report earlier. So let's have a look. So what kind of, let's have a look here. Did we save that? Oh, I see. Okay, so yeah, we have to. I didn't actually select it. Let me just go out of here and select the HTML report as well. Okay, so let's just go back into the message now. Okay, so now we should be able to add some tags. So we click, first of all, I should explain, we need to click the editor button here to enable the editor in order to add text into the body. So you can go hello and just say recipient name, for example, right, to enable that tag. Oops, sorry, I didn't grab the tag. So recipients, full name, there we go. This is your quarterly report. And there's a couple of options you can use with these tags. So here's the HTML report. And here's the embed link. So you can actually embed the HTML content directly into your email. Okay. And of course you can embed, not embed, but rather for some of these other reports, you can put the file name of the report or a link to the file. So let's just put that in there. Okay. And of course you can use some of these other options as well, some of the other tags. But just to give you an idea, if we were to deliver this to email, the HTML report would be embedded in the email, and for the other reports, a link to the file would be presented using this variable. Okay, so one more thing to note: you can actually add attachments not related to the NPrinting reports, so you can add completely different attachments if you like as well. So if you want to deliver the QBW itself, you can actually send the QBW with this report as well. Okay, so just click OK. And so that's basically the creation. Of course, you can add a footer image in the email as well if you like. Okay, so we're not actually going to send an email today, but I just wanted to show you how that works. Let's go back out. So now let's look at what we have. We have 3 reports. Let's go to General, and let's go ahead and save and close. And now we have a report task ready to go. So now we're ready to run this task. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and see what we have in our output. Okay, so now we have contents in here. Of course, I just it's 10:11 my time here in PSD, and as you can see, these folders were just created at 10:11 today. And now let's look at Elvis Presley's report. All right. So if you recall, the unfiltered report contains everybody's information. The recipient level report contains only the information for that specific recipient. There's Elvis Presley and his Elvis Presley slide sheet. So that is the power of NPrinting reporting and distribution. So that's how to do the automation piece of NPrinting. Are there any questions? That was a fairly long topic. I know it was a lot. Thanks for hanging in there with me, but are there any questions about that? We're going to do another report. We're going to do the chart level report before we do the automation. So any questions about that? Okay. All right. So there's going to still be an opportunity to ask questions at the end of the training today, so feel free to also use that time to ask those questions at that point as well. All right. So if there are no other questions on the report, on the recipient import process and automate on delivery, I'll move on to the next. I'll move on to the next report. So this is fairly important. This is an important report. What we're going to do is do a chart level report. And inside the chart level report, I'm going to show you and talk about dynamic filters. What we created earlier were static filters. So I want to show you that you can use ClickView inside this report. We're going to leverage this report to show you how to use dynamic filters with NPrinting as well using the formula tool. And you can actually add filters directly inside your NPrinting filters area. So at any rate, we'll show you how that all works right now. So let's go ahead and create a new report. And we're going to add some images, 187, and we're going to add 187 twice because we're going to filter that object differently. Okay. Tables, let's add chart 1, table 184, and let's add it again. Okay, so let's start dragging the items over. Okay, so chart 187, chart 187, chart 184, chart 184. Actually, I'm going to do this a little differently. Okay, so 184, let's start our filtering. So on chart 184, we want to use the previous year's data, previous year filter, which I already created. Previous year, current year. There we go, previous year. And over here on the right, I want to use the current year filter. Okay, sorry, I want to use the previous year. Sorry, let me just do that again. So previous year on this chart, and we're going to use current year filter on this chart. Okay, that's better. Okay, so now we have previous year and current year. We just add another row here. We're going to need that space. Okay, so over here, let's go do the charts now. Let's filter the charts. So previous year. And go over to the second chart and do current year. Add the filter here. Okay. So basically what we've done is we added the same chart twice, the same table twice. We put a previous year filter on, sorry, we put a previous year filter on the images and a current year filter. Okay, so each chart and table has a previous and current year filter. Okay, current, previous, current. Okay, I got these backwards, right? Current, and let's change this one to previous. So let's just go make sure we got those correct again. Sorry about that. Okay, so previous year, current year, this should be previous year, and this should be current year. Okay, so and we're ready to preview that. Okay, so as you can see, the chart below shows the year, and the same chart was filtered differently, both the image and as well as the sales chart as well. You can see the numbers are different, but let's make this a bit more descriptive. Let's go ahead and add a dynamic formula. Sorry, so current year. Okay, so okay. So that's our current year formula. And so year now 1. And there's your previous year. So we want to put the, instead of typing a static value here, you can create a couple of formulas for previous and current year and just put them up here. Of course, you can bold those, make them larger, what have you. And it's actually, I like to use the format. Here's a little trick I like to show you. Use the format painter and just copy it into the into any cell that you like. Okay, so now we have the years defined using the formula tool, and let's go ahead and see how that looks. So we have 2013, 2014, and you can see the charts here are also filtered by 2013, 2014. So and that's your chart level filter. I'm going to save that off and save chart filter. And you can only use tables and images for chart level filtering. You can't do that at levels and pages, for example. You can only do this using tables and images. So this is almost like a formostat analysis where you're comparing two different sets of data, like 2 different years, for example. This is a simple way to do set analysis without doing a bunch of set analysis. Okay, so let's go back and just talk about filters one more time. If we go into filters, you can see the current year filter, right? So the important point here, the filter that we used in that example, in that report, is actually a dynamic filter, right? So we use the same formula. We've typed it into a separate area. That formula is used simply for defining a specific piece of information, the formula inside the report itself. But this formula that we added, this filter that we added to the chart, is actually the same formula but used as a filter. In this case, it's a dynamic. This is what we call a dynamic filter. So instead of adding values, for example, 2013, 2012, 2014, you can actually use. You just simply add a line and type that formula into that line. And that's a dynamic filter. And that was the last topic I wanted to cover before we went into the distribution piece. Any questions about static or dynamic filters, chart level filtering, anything at all? Okay. All right. So we're in the home stretch now. We're just going to talk about schedules. Now we're going to how we're going to automate those report and recipient import tasks, for example. So let's go ahead and create a schedule. You can schedule it as you prefer to schedule it. Just add your schedule information. It's a pretty standard scheduling tool, so I won't get into a lot of detail there. Jobs, we need to first create, well, we need to add a job if there are any. We don't have any jobs to add yet, so we have to create a new job. Right? So go ahead and add tasks to the job. By default, everything's active. If you want to deactivate a state, just click that green button. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a task. You can see here where it says tasks because you want to add or create new tasks at this point. So in this case, we want to add a recipient. Well, so you can see all the tasks. You can add any task to the schedule that you like. In this case, we'll just add the recipient import task. I'm sorry, we'll just add the report task. Okay, so, and that's as simple as that. Save and close, and then you can run the schedule. Now, save the NSQ. You can either start the scheduler here. Again, as I mentioned in the slides, this disables all the other functions, right? So you cannot develop any more imprinting reports if you use the imprinting client to schedule reports also. If you use the NPrinting client to schedule reports, you have to leave this client unlocked, insecure, and prevent it from being locked overnight. So not really a scalable way of doing your NPrinting reports in an automated fashion, but it can be done. Nevertheless, I'll stop this and save the job. Right? And if you recall, we saved our NSQ to this file location. So in order to automate that, we simply need to go to, well, first we need to stop the NPrinting service before we can add anything. So all I've done here is I've opened the NPrinting Management Console, and I'm going to stop the NPrinting service. When you stop the NPrinting service, you can then add files or folders. And that's the basic training NSQ we added today. And then to enable that schedule, all you do is click Start. When you click Start, all these buttons disappear again. So you have to stop the service in order to add NSQs. You can also add entire folders to the NSQ watch list. So in that case, you don't even have to stop the service. All you need to do is add folders, add NSQs to a specific folder, and they'll be watched automatically. And that, everyone, is NPrinting basic training for today. And first of all, I'd like to thank you all for attending today. I know you had to wait a fair amount of time. I'm not sure, there were some technical difficulties with the webinar system, so we're not sure what happened there. In any case, thank you for hanging in there and waiting around for us to get things working again. I hope this was helpful to you. This is an opportunity now for you to ask any additional questions that you might have based on the training we had today. While you're thinking of those training questions, feel free to visit our webinars site again to sign up for the advanced training coming up on Thursday at the same time. You can sign up for as many or as few webinars as you like. I'd love to see as many as possible, but pick the ones that are best suited for you, and please ask your new NPrinting developers to join us for training sessions. It'll be very useful for them as well. Finally, for additional support, as always, please contact support@vizubi.com. Just a note, when you contact support@vizubi.com, please create a new ticket for every different support request. So if you start a support request and you have a different question in the same email stream, it's much more efficient if you could start a new email stream for any new tickets that you might have. So that being said, are there any questions? Any questions at all? Oh, wonderful. I got one here. Let's see. You're very welcome. Okay, super. Yes, so if you need to, if you want, good question about on-demand. Oh, by the way, we'll be talking about on-demand in the advanced training as well. So the question is, in the free trial, and is on-demand activated? Yes, the server trial is fully active with all the features included. So yes, you can go ahead and use on-demand right away. And again, we'll be showing you how to set up on-demand on Thursday as well. So thank you all for your nice comments, and I appreciate you staying with me today. You're all superstars for hanging in there and waiting for us. We really appreciate it. So again, Thursday's training is coming up. Please feel free to sign up for that. And in the meantime, I hope you have a great day, great evening, or great afternoon. Oh, so one more question. As we have schedule in client itself, then what is use of server? So actually, I just covered those points, but I'm happy to cover those points for you again. The client itself must be left open. It must be not locking automatically, which is very insecure, and you cannot develop any imprinting reports while the scheduler is enabled. So it's not really a very scalable enterprise method for scheduling your reports. Although it can be done, the server is really where you need to manage your imprinting schedules. Also, you can only run one schedule at one NSQ at a time with that. So in any case, that is the reason why. Those are the reasons. So I mean, if you're running it from the client itself and that serves your needs, then that's why it's there. But in most cases, running it from the server is a preferred mode, and also running from the server is more efficient and faster, simply because it's running as a service in the background. Does that answer your question again? About the service? Okay, super. All right, folks, I'm going to wrap it up. Once again, thank you for joining us today. Appreciate you. Oh, got another question. Is NPrinting client required in the NPrinting server machine? No, only if you're developing reports on the NPrinting server. You can have the NPrinting client in its own environment. What you do need is a copy of MS Office and a copy of the ClickView desktop in order to run separately. Does that answer your question? Oh, you're very welcome. Any more questions? I'm happy to answer as many questions as you have. Okay. Awesome. All right, I'm going to close then. Once again, thank you for joining us today. Much appreciated. I hope you have a great day or afternoon or evening or morning, wherever you are in the world. Thanks again, and have a wonderful day.